High-fat diets are always bad, okay, for any regular person. If you got refractory epilepsy that you can't control with the medication, maybe you can slow your brain down with a high-fat diet. But other than that, there's not too many reasons why you ever want to eat a high-fat diet. Saturated fat and omega-6 cooking oils, PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, they cause blood sludge, rouleau formation. They stick the red blood cells together, and that causes tissue hypoxia. Okay, so you don't want that. So what I'm saying here is there's a lot of reasons why fats are bad. The next one is the thick blood. When you thicken the blood, that means you're pumping a milkshake up to the top of your brain. That's the hardest spot to get to, pumping against gravity at the top of your head. So pressure has to go up when you're pumping thick blood like a milkshake instead of pumping thin blood like water. The next thing is the same thing that stick red blood cells together. They tend to stick the platelets together. Increased platelet aggregation can also be caused by dietary sodium. When you get increased sticky platelets, platelet aggregation, they can also stick around metastasizing cells that are associated with increased risk of metastatic cancer, because sticking to the outer surface of a metastasizing cancer cell in the blood will hide it from the immune system cells that remove the cancer cells. Because the way the immune system works, it's like Braille. It feels the cells as they go by, and it can't feel the cancer cell if it's covered in platelets. So you're increasing your risk of cancer spread. You're also increasing your risk of clots, because platelets cause things to clot, to stick together. You get insulin resistance. All fats increase insulin resistance, especially sat fat, but they all do. So you increase your risk of diabetes. And diabetes leads to all kinds of downstream problems. Increased insulin leads to increased insulin-like growth factor, leads to increased activation of mTOR, leads to increased risk of cancer. Okay, diabetes plugs up arteries all over the place, in the brain, in the foot, everywhere, in the Johnson, in the heart. Also, high-fat diets are associated with increased incidence of leaky gut. They tend to be low-fiber diets. Most of this fat's either going to come from animal foods, or it's going to, which have no fiber, or it's going to come from processed foods, which have very little fiber, or it's going to come from oils, which are also toxic to the gut lining. When you get leaky gut, you get increased postprandial endotoxemia, bacterial endotoxins, and those cause amyloid clotting, make the blood more prothrombotic. You get increased incidence of autoimmune disease. They're uncommon, but they can be really bad. You get increased, besides the increased postprandial endotoxemia causes activation of the brain microglia, because when you have leaky gut, you tend to have leaky blood-brain barrier, and you can get bacterial endotoxins like LPS, lipopolysaccharide, and LTA, lipoteichoic acid, across the blood-brain barrier, causing activation of your microglia, the macrophages in the brain, and those will then release harmful chemicals, because they've got PRRs, pattern recognition receptors. When they sense LPS and LTA,